Hey everyone, welcome back to the Working Dirt Off-Road channel. I have a really good radiator story for you guys because I cannot go off-roading right now or Terra in this beautiful weather because we are having to install a new radiator, an expensive one at that, in our Hemi Jeep LJ, and then hopefully when that's in, we will be back on the trail. So stick around. If you've been following our Hemi build, Hemi swap LJ series here of this fine Jeep right behind me, then you know we are pretty much at the end of the build, and now we just have a few accessory items like rock guards, rock sliders, and maybe corner guards, you know, just those few little niceties or whatever. So we had a radiator already installed in this, and hopefully this isn't going to be too much of a rant video, more of a productive video where I can help you and you can help me for future purchases, because the radiator we installed was the same brand that was originally in the Jeep, which was a Bryce Thomas radiator out of Alabama, I think it is. And it was a nice radiator and it was working good, so I figured, you know what, rebuilding the Jeep, let's use the same one because the other one got wrecked. And so I did. I got it back. It was working for 2 months and it sprung a little leak right at the bottom here. You see, I think it's like that one right there, maybe that one too. And so I called the company. I'm like, hey, I bought this thing, yeah, probably a little over a year ago, and but it sprung a leak. What can you do to help me out? And you know, they I think have a year warranty, so they were like, well, it's like 2 months out of warranty, so we can only well, send it to us, we'll see what we can do. And they looked at it and they talked to me and said, well, we'll help you on the repair bill. Basically, they'll do free shipping, and they just charged me the cost of the labor to fix it. It was like 80 bucks. And I was like, all right, whatever. So the Jeep's down, I send it back. I was appreciative they're willing to help me out, kind of meet me halfway, whatever. So I send it back, but I told them, while we fix that issue, if you can, which is like one of the hardest areas to fix on a radiator, is can you please fix the filler neck, because the filler neck was a very thin stamped metal filler neck, but now it is a beefy thick billet machined filler neck, which is nice because I was having issues with my cap sealing off. And so they did, which is awesome. They fixed that. I got it back. I was stoked, and sure enough, it started leaking again. So the fix didn't work. So I called them and they said, can you take it to a radiator shop to verify the leak? And I did, and they said, yeah, that's just a really hard area to deal with. So they no longer made this model, which was kind of odd, which, yeah, okay, the Hemi swap LJ or TJ is kind of an older thing now. So they have all these newer models and whatnot. So they said, well, this one can work. I forget what it was. And it's very similar, but let me back up here for a second, because when I originally went back to Bryce Thomas Radiator, I found out that they had gotten bought out by this bigger company called CG&J Cooling, but they wanted to keep that division because that guy had a really good reputation with hot rodders and whatnot. So I can understand that, whatever, but you can definitely see that they have they've streamlined production, so to speak, which means they had to make different changes in their fabrication. And some of those are, one, the radiator has a bunch of burrs because they did some type of stamp cutting. It's not laser cutting. You can see the little sharp points right there. So on the old one, I went through and deburred it. And that's like shop class 101, where you always deburr any of your metal work just for safety, and if you have to work on your engine, you don't get cut up. So whatever, I was willing to like look past that. But looking at the filler neck, the new one, now again, this is the new one that got replaced. Again, it's a very cheap stamped filler neck piece, and look at how low profile it is. It barely gives you room to put the hose on, which it's just, you know, I don't even know, they must have kind of rivet press that filler neck in. And then the cap, you can see the top and bottom cap is no longer a box structure like this one. It's like this stamped metal all the way around, so you can see there's extra like stress marks in the corner right here from the metal being bent. And I don't know how much that actually saves them as far as material costs and fabrication, because they still had to weld in this inlet and the outlet down there. So I really like that boxy old school where they did have to weld the ends, you know, because they bent this over, they cut and then they bend. I'm just hoping that you know, this goes the distance. And then here, let's look at this radiator. Also has a transmission. I opted for the transmission cooling lines because I need them. And these are the new ones, and you see they're so tiny, it almost like the weld absorbed the nut. And whereas these are nice beefy fillet welds along this bushing here for my A&N fitting. So it's all these small little things that attribute to that whole thing where they say they don't build them like they used to, right? And I am a lover of engineering and technology. I mean, I went to school for engineering, so I can understand the benefits, but I can't see this one lasting long. Whereas if this one, that frame would last longer. I mean, I had to go down to the tinier 1/8 inch pipe thread, which is a super small fitting, versus the 1/4 inch. Those are tight in there, but whatever. I don't want to be negative, and I will say the customer service representative there at CG&J was really nice and helping me. I don't know why he missed putting the filler neck. He said it was going to have the new filler neck, but he did his job the best he could. But all in all, the new radiator, I had to spend half, so they were willing to meet me halfway on this. So all in all, I'm close to $1,000 in radiator repair, build, you know, buying, and I think that's just absurd. If it was my company, I would want to take care of them right, and if anything, cover like 80% of it, and maybe the whole thing, you just pay shipping. Because I have to back up again here. Everyone building a car or dealing with a hot rod or whatever knows that, like, when you buy a part, you get a little excited, right? You want to complete your build, so you buy the part, you set it aside in your shop, and then it's quite some months later before you actually install it, right? Well, I told him the same thing. I'm like, yeah, I'm 2 months out of warranty, but I've had it for only 14 months, and I stuck it in at basically a year mark. So I've only had it 2 months. You could tell there's no bugs in the radiator, there's no nothing. So between you and me, face to face, come on, like, let's look outside the lines here. But you know what, whatever. So that's where I'm like willing to meet halfway, but I still feel at the end of the day, they have almost $1,000 out of me from a product they have created. And it's not like they make a bunch of different products. They do have a lot of cooling stuff, but radiators was a specialty line that they had. It's not like I was dealing with Mishimoto, which is a foreign job that is notoriously known for leaking. This is American made. It's just definitely a sour, I don't know, thorn in my side. So whatever, enough talking about that. Let's get this thing in the Jeep and see if it's not going to leak. But also, if you guys know of a better company that sells radiators for these TJs and Hemis, let me know. I didn't talk to him, but I texted Jeep Speed Shop, who did some work on my Jeep. He does really good work. He uses CG&J cooling too, and he likes them, but I don't know if he's aware of these newer models where they've done, I don't want to say shortcuts, they've trimmed the fat, so to speak, in the fabrication process, and I'm not that happy with the result so far. If it lasts 20 years, then you know what, I'll eat my words and I'll be the first to say it. But here we go. So I got my tools out. First thing I got to do is deburr it and then stick it in. I'm going to use the carbide bit on my roto tool to get the big sharp points off, and then I'll come back with a palm sander and see if I can smoothen things out. Sarah's in the other RV working, so I'm just trying to do this as a one-man job. Very careful. time for the refill. You guys are probably wondering, what the hell are we doing? And all I have to say is, if you live in the country, you'll find yourself doing things just like this. If I never had a messed up radiator, I wouldn't be having to do this, but I did, and so I've had to drain it a couple times. So I stored it in this bucket, and a couple bugs found it before I put the lid on, so I want to catch them out and reuse. And this is probably right now at about a 60% water, 40% coolant mixture, distilled. All right, so the new radiator has a filler neck that's on the other side. The other one used to be right in the middle, so we had to improvise with a clear tube because the local hardware store doesn't have automotive stuff. So I'll get that in town. This is just gonna get us by for right now. So time to fire it up after probably 6 weeks of sitting still. That sound never gets old. 375 hosies. It's probably actually 385 due to some little mod. But we'll just look for leaks and let it get warm so that thermostat can open up and hopefully be good to go. No, this didn't turn into a scary movie. It's just that late now. It's, I don't know, 7 o'clock, still winter, so it gets dark early. And we took it for a test drive. Well, before I took it for a test drive, obviously I checked for leaks as the engine was warming up, and I saw a little water coming down, so I immediately was getting a little disappointed. But I'm pretty sure at this point, 90% sure, it was just the water that spilled over when I filled up the radiator. It was trapped in the fins, and the fan was pulling it, so it was like slowly kind of leaking. But as we took it for a test drive, it got up to operating temperature, and I'm not seeing any new water yet, but I'm gonna go over there, double check it. I need to tighten the transmission cooling lines, and then and cross our fingers that it's good to go. So Tara will be back on the road.